What if I told you that tiny changes could lead to remarkable results? That's exactly what we're exploring today. Welcome to Book Summaries channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most transformative books on personal development, Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book reveals how small, consistent changes can compound into life-changing results. James Clear opens by sharing his remarkable recovery story from a devastating baseball accident in high school. A bat struck his face, causing serious injuries that could have ended his athletic career. Instead of dramatic overnight changes, he focused on tiny improvements each day. This chapter introduces the core concept that small habits, when compounded over time, lead to remarkable results. Clear explains that if you get 1% better each day for a year, you'll end up 37 times better by the end. Conversely, getting 1% worse each day leaves you nearly at zero. The aggregation of marginal gains is a powerful force. Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. Your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. You get what you repeat. The chapter emphasizes that habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Time magnifies the margin between success and failure, multiplying whatever you feed it. Good habits make time your ally, while bad habits make time your enemy. This chapter explores the three layers of behavior change: outcomes, processes, and identity. Most people start with outcomes, focusing on what they want to achieve. The second layer is changing your process, like implementing a new routine. The deepest layer is changing your identity, which involves your beliefs and self-image. Clear argues that the most effective way to change your habits is to focus on who you wish to become, not what you want to achieve. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. The goal is not to read a book, but to become a reader. It's not to run a marathon, but to become a runner. Your identity emerges out of your habits, and every habit is like a suggestion for who you are. The more evidence you have for a belief, the more strongly you will believe it. Building better habits is fundamentally about becoming the type of person you want to be. True behavior change is identity change, and once your pride gets involved, you'll fight tooth and nail to maintain your habits. Clear introduces the four-step pattern behind every habit: cue, craving, response, and reward. The cue triggers a craving, which motivates a response, which provides a reward, which satisfies the craving and becomes associated with the cue. This cycle runs continuously, operating beneath our conscious awareness. A cue is a piece of information that predicts a reward. A craving is the motivational force behind every habit. The response is the actual habit you perform, which can be a thought or an action. The reward is the end goal of every habit. Without the first three steps, a behavior will not occur, and without all four, a behavior will not be repeated. Clear presents the four laws of behavior change as a simple set of rules for creating good habits and breaking bad ones. To build a good habit, you need to make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. To break a bad habit, you invert these laws. This framework will serve as the backbone for understanding how to design better habits throughout the rest of the book. This chapter demonstrates how our brains automatically process cues and trigger habits without conscious awareness. Clear shares the story of a psychologist whose wife was admitted to the hospital. Despite appearing normal to medical staff, the psychologist sensed something was wrong with his wife. His intuition proved correct when she suffered a stroke shortly after. This story illustrates how our brains pick up on subtle cues through repeated exposure. Over time, the cues that spark our habits become so common that they are essentially invisible. Our responses to these cues become so deeply encoded that it may feel like the urge to act comes from nowhere. Before we can effectively build new habits, we need to get a handle on our current ones. This requires heightened awareness and conscious observation. Clear introduces the habits scorecard as a simple exercise to become more aware of your behavior. You simply make a list of your daily habits and mark each one as positive, negative, or neutral. The first step to changing bad habits is to be on the lookout for them. Awareness comes before desire, and you must first notice before you can change. Implementation intentions are introduced as a powerful strategy for habit formation. Instead of vague goals like exercising more, you create a specific plan. I will exercise for 30 minutes at 7 a.m. in my living room. The format follows the pattern. I will behavior at time in location. Research shows that people who make a specific plan for when and where they will perform a new habit are more likely to follow through. Clear also introduces habit stacking, a special form of implementation intention. Rather than pairing your new habit with a particular time and location, you pair it with a current habit. The formula is, after current habit, I will new habit. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Habit stacking allows you to create a set of simple rules that guide your future behavior. The key is to tie your desired behavior into something you already do each day. Your current habits were built into your brain through years of repetition, making them the perfect foundation for new behaviors. Once you master this basic structure, you can develop general habit stacks for different situations. Clear argues that environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Small changes in context can lead to large changes in behavior over time. Every habit is initiated by a cue, and we are more likely to notice cues that stand out. Making the cues of good habits obvious in your environment is one of the most practical ways to ensure you follow through. Environment design allows you to take back control and become the architect of your life. Be the designer of your world and not merely a consumer of it. The most persistent behaviors usually have multiple cues, which is why creating a more obvious environment can be so powerful. Clear shares research showing that visual cues are the greatest catalyst of our behavior. If you want to make a habit a big part of your life, make the cue a big part of your environment. Gradually, your habits become associated not with a single trigger, but with the entire context surrounding the behavior. Our behavior is not defined by the objects in the environment, but by our relationship to them. Stop thinking about your environment as filled with objects and start thinking about it as filled with relationships. The mantra is simple: one space, one use. People with high self-control tend to spend less time in tempting situations. It's easier to avoid temptation than to resist it. Self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one. You may be able to resist temptation once or twice, but it's unlikely you can muster the willpower to override your desires every time. Instead of summoning a new dose of willpower whenever you want to do the right thing, your energy would be better spent optimizing your environment. Make the cues of your good habits obvious and the cues of your bad habits invisible. Clear explains that bad habits are autocatalytic. The process feeds itself. Watching television makes you feel sluggish, so you watch more television. The more your life is designed around avoiding exposure to bad cues, the less discipline you'll need. This is the secret to self-control. Make the cues of bad habits invisible, and you won't need as much motivation to overcome them. Redesign your life so the actions that matter most are also the actions that are easiest to do. Environment design is powerful not only for building new habits, but also for breaking old ones. The more attractive an opportunity is, the more likely it is to become habit-forming. Habits are a dopamine-driven feedback loop. When dopamine rises, so does our motivation to act. It is the anticipation of a reward, not the fulfillment of it, that gets us to take action. The greater the anticipation, the greater the dopamine spike. Temptation bundling is a strategy that works by linking an action you want to do with an action you need to do. Clear shares how he used this strategy by only allowing himself to watch Netflix while exercising. You're more likely to find a behavior attractive if you get to do one of your favorite things at the same time. This strategy can be combined with habit stacking to create a set of rules that guide your behavior. The formula is, after current habit, I will habit I need. After habit I need, I will habit I want. Temptation bundling makes your habits more attractive because you're combining two behaviors. You can even create a motivational ritual by doing something you enjoy immediately before a difficult habit. The key is to make your habits attractive in the moments before they actually happen. We are herd animals, and we want to fit in, to bond with others, and to earn the respect and approval of our peers. This tendency is the foundation of culture. We imitate the habits of three groups in particular: the close, the many, and the powerful. The closer we are to someone, the more likely we are to imitate some of their habits. One of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. New habits seem achievable when you see others doing them every day. If you are surrounded by fit people, you're more likely to consider working out to be a common habit. Your culture sets your expectation for what is normal. Surround yourself with people who have the habits you want to have yourself. You'll rise together. To make your habits even more attractive, you can use a technique called temptation bundling. Join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior and you already have something in common with the group. Nothing sustains motivation better than belonging to the tribe. The reward of being accepted is often greater than the reward of winning an argument. Every behavior has a surface-level craving and a deeper underlying motive. Your habits are modern-day solutions to ancient desires. The underlying motives behind human behavior remain the same. Conserve energy, connect and bond with others, win social acceptance, reduce uncertainty, achieve status. A craving is just a specific manifestation of a deeper underlying motive. Your current habits are not necessarily the best way to solve the problems you face. They are just the methods you learn to use. Once you associate a solution with the problem you need to solve, you keep coming back to it. Habits are all about associations. These associations determine whether we predict a habit to be worth repeating or not. Clear introduces the concept of reprogramming your brain to enjoy hard habits. You can make hard habits more attractive if you can learn to associate them with a positive experience. For example, instead of saying I have to go run in the morning, say I get to build endurance and get faster. The key is to highlight the benefits of avoiding a bad habit to make it seem unattractive. Reframing your habits to highlight their benefits rather than their drawbacks is a fast way to reprogram your mind. The most effective form of learning is practice, not planning. Focus on taking action, not being in motion. When you're in motion, you're planning and strategizing and learning, but you're not actually doing anything. Motion makes you feel like you're getting things done when really you're just preparing to get something done. If you want to master a habit, the key is to start with repetition, not perfection. You don't need to map out every feature of a new habit, you just need to practice it. This is the first takeaway of the third law. You need to get your reps in. The amount of time you've been performing a habit is not as important as the number of times you've performed it. Habit formation is the process by which a behavior becomes progressively more automatic through repetition. The more you repeat an activity, the more the structure of your brain changes to become efficient at that activity. Each time you repeat an action, you activate a particular neural circuit associated with that habit. This is one reason why it's crucial to build habits that work for you, because with enough practice, you'll make the behavior second nature. To build a habit, you need to practice it, and the easiest way to practice is to use the 2-minute rule. Human behavior follows the law of least effort, which states that we will naturally gravitate toward the option that requires the least amount of work. Energy is precious, and the brain is wired to conserve it whenever possible. It is human nature to follow the path of least resistance. Clear explains that the less energy a habit requires, the more likely it is to occur. If your goal is to do 100 push-ups per day, you could make it easier by doing just 1 push-up per day. Look at any behavior that fills up much of your life, and you'll see that it can be performed with very low levels of motivation. Habits like scrolling on our phones, checking email, and watching television steal so much of our time because they can be performed almost without effort. On the flip side, the more friction associated with a habit, the less likely you are to do it. The idea is to make your habits so easy that you'll do them even when you don't feel like it. Reduce the friction associated with good behaviors and increase the friction associated with bad ones. Prime your environment to make future actions easier. This is one of the most practical ways to improve your habits. Even when you know you should start small, it's easy to start too big. The 2-minute rule states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. The idea is to make your habits as easy as possible to start. Anyone can meditate for 1 minute, read 1 page, or put 1 item of clothing away. Nearly any larger life goal can be transformed into a 2-minute behavior. Instead of trying to engineer a perfect habit from the start, do the easy thing on a more consistent basis. You have to standardize before you can optimize. You can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. The point is to master the habit of showing up. The truth is, a habit must be established before it can be improved. If you can't learn the basic skill of showing up, then you have little hope of mastering the finer details. Instead of trying to engineer a perfect habit, focus on establishing the behavior. Start by mastering the first 2 minutes of your routine. A new habit should not feel like a challenge. It should feel easy. The actions that follow can be challenging, but the first 2 minutes should be easy. What you want is a gateway habit that naturally leads you down a more productive path. You're taking the smallest action that confirms the type of person you want to be. Sometimes success is less about making good habits easy and more about making bad habits hard. A commitment device is a choice you make in the present that controls your actions in the future. It is a way to lock in future behavior, bind you to good habits, and restrict you from bad ones. Clear shares examples like buying food in individual packages rather than bulk sizes to prevent overeating. The best way to break a bad habit is to make it impractical to do. Increase the friction until you don't even have the option to act. Commitment devices are useful because they enable you to take advantage of good intentions before you can fall victim to temptation. The key is to change the task such that it requires more work to get out of the good habit than to get started on it. Technology can transform actions that were once hard, annoying, and complicated into behaviors that are easy, painless, and simple. It is the natural enemy of behaviors that require friction. It makes it easier to slide into bad habits, as well as easier to engage in good ones. One-time choices that lock in good habits are a powerful way to improve your behavior. These are single actions that automate your future habits and deliver increasing returns over time. We are more likely to repeat a behavior when the experience is satisfying. Pleasure teaches your brain that a behavior is worth remembering and repeating. The cardinal rule of behavior change is, what is immediately rewarded is repeated, and what is immediately punished is avoided. The first 3 laws of behavior change increase the odds that a behavior will be performed this time. The 4th law increases the odds that a behavior will be repeated next time. It completes the habit loop. Immediate reinforcement helps maintain motivation in the short term while you wait for the long-term rewards to arrive. Clear explains that the costs of your good habits are in the present, but the costs of your bad habits are in the future. This is why bad habits feel good in the moment, but are ultimately dissatisfying. With our bad habits, the immediate outcome usually feels good, but the ultimate outcome feels bad. With good habits, it is the reverse. The consequences of bad habits are delayed while the rewards are immediate. The best approach is to add a little bit of immediate pleasure to the habits that pay off in the long run. Make it immediately satisfying, and you'll repeat the behavior. Making progress is satisfying, and visual measures provide clear evidence of your progress. The most effective form of motivation is progress. One of the most satisfying feelings is the feeling of making progress. A habit tracker is a simple way to measure whether you did a habit. The most basic format is to get a calendar and cross off each day you stick with your routine. Habit tracking is powerful for 3 reasons. First, it creates a visual cue that can remind you to act. Second, it is inherently motivating because you see the progress you are making and don't want to lose it. Third, it feels satisfying to record your success. Clear warns never to break the habit twice. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. This is a distinguishing feature between winners and losers. Anyone can have a bad performance, a bad workout, or a bad day at work, but when successful people fail, they rebound quickly. The first mistake is never the one that ruins you. It is the spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. Don't put up a 0, keep the chain going. Just because you can measure something doesn't mean it's the most important thing. We are less likely to repeat a bad habit if it is painful or unsatisfying. Just as we are more likely to repeat an experience when the ending is satisfying, we are also more likely to avoid an experience when the ending is painful. Pain is an effective teacher. The more immediate the pain, the less likely the behavior. To make bad habits unsatisfying, your best option is to make them painful in the moment. Clear introduces the concept of a habit contract, which is a verbal or written agreement in which you state your commitment to a particular habit and the punishment that will occur if you don't follow through. Then you find 1 or 2 people to act as your accountability partners and sign off on the contract with you. An accountability partner can create an immediate cost to inaction. We care deeply about what others think of us, and we do not want others to have a lesser opinion of us. You are less likely to procrastinate or give up because there is an immediate cost. If you don't follow through, perhaps they'll see you as untrustworthy or lazy. The habit contract can be applied to anything from weight loss to productivity to relationships, and it adds social pressure as motivation. The secret to maximizing your odds of success is to choose the right field of competition. Habits are easier to perform and more satisfying to stick with when they align with your natural inclinations and abilities. Clear argues that genes do not determine your destiny, but they do determine your areas of opportunity. Your genes predispose you to excel at some things and struggle with others. The key is to direct your effort toward areas that both excite you and match your natural skills, to align your ambition with your ability. The most proven scientific analysis of personality traits is the Big Five, which breaks behavior down into 5 spectrums of behavior: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Clear suggests that the most common approach is trial and error, but there are ways to explore the subject systematically. Ask yourself, what feels like fun to me but work to others? When have I felt alive? What comes naturally to me? People who are talented in a particular area tend to be more competent at that task and are then praised for doing a good job, which makes the habit more attractive and motivates them to repeat it. Play a game that favors your strengths. If you can't find a game that favors you, create one. Genes can't make you successful if you're not doing the work. The Goldilocks rule states that humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just right. This is a key principle in habit formation. Clear explains that when you're starting a new habit, it's important to keep the behavior as easy as possible so you can stick with it even when conditions aren't perfect. But once a habit has been established, you need to continue to advance in small ways. These little improvements and new challenges keep you engaged. If you hit the Goldilocks zone just right, you can achieve a flow state. A flow state is the experience of being in the zone and fully immersed in an activity. Scientists have tried to quantify this feeling and have found that to achieve a state of flow, a task must be roughly 4% beyond your current ability. The greatest threat to success is not failure, but boredom. We get bored with habits because they stop offering novelty. As habits become routine, they become less interesting and less satisfying. Anyone can work hard when they feel motivated, but it's the ability to keep going when work isn't exciting that makes the difference. Professionals stick to the schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way. The upside of habits is that we can do things without thinking. The downside of habits is that we stop paying attention to little errors. We assume we're getting better because we're gaining experience, but in reality, the skills have become automatic and we stop thinking about how to improve. Clear introduces the concept of mastery as the process of narrowing your focus to a tiny element of success, repeating it until you have internalized the skill, and then using this new habit as the foundation to advance to the next frontier. However, when you can do something good enough on autopilot, you stop thinking about how to do it better. The solution is to combine habits with deliberate practice through reflection and review. Reflection and review enables the long-term improvement of all habits because it makes you aware of your mistakes and helps you consider possible paths for improvement. Without reflection, we can make excuses, create rationalizations, and lie to ourselves. Improvement is not just about learning habits, it's also about fine-tuning them. You want to carefully review and adjust your course as you go. Clear recommends conducting an annual review and an integrity report to reflect on your performance and maintain awareness. The tighter we cling to an identity, the harder it becomes to grow beyond it. Clear concludes by emphasizing that the secret to getting results that last is to never stop making improvements. It's remarkable what you can build if you just don't stop. Small habits don't add up, they compound. That's the power of atomic habits. Tiny changes that lead to remarkable results. Success is not a goal to reach or a finish line to cross. It is a system to improve, an endless process to refine. In this final chapter, Clear revisits the core ideas of the book and reinforces that the 4 laws of behavior change provide a simple set of rules for creating good habits and breaking bad ones. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying for good habits. Invert these laws for bad habits. The holy grail of habit change is not a single 1% improvement, but 1,000 of them. It's a bunch of atomic habits stacking up, each one a fundamental unit of the overall system. Clear reminds readers that you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Focus on who you wish to become, and let your habits shape your identity. The purpose of building habits is to free up your mental space so you can allocate your attention to new challenges. With your habits handled, you can focus on the next set of challenges and continue to make progress.